Hawaii. So when the summer is approaching in Alaska, the little golden plover flies over the vast expanse of the Pacific from Alaska, or from Hawaii to Alaska, to spend the summer in Alaska, where it builds its nest and has its young. And as the fall comes on, the golden plover leaves Alaska and again flies over the Pacific to Hawaii. Now, doesn't have, the kind of navigational system that our aircraft have. In fact, we don't really understand the navigational system. It just is sort of innate within the golden plover. There can be winds that will blow it off course, but it will still find Hawaii and then spend the winter in Hawaii. And the interesting thing is that it can navigate and find its way to Hawaii over 1,000 miles of ocean without any landmarks or whatever, and yet it finds Hawaii. You say, well, it's been there before. Doesn't answer it, because when the parents take off and fly to Hawaii, their little fledglings are too small to fly that far. They stay for a few more weeks, 2 or 3 weeks more, in Alaska, gorging on food so that they can make this long flight. And then they take off for Hawaii, and they've never been there before. So it's just something that God plants in the bird brain. And so when someone calls you a bird brain, don't be insulted. That, it's pretty good what they can do with just that little brain that they have. And so innately, God planted it into the minds of the animals that a catastrophe was coming. And he drew the animals to the ark. And they went in 2 by 2 unto Noah into the ark, male and female, as God commanded Noah. Came to pass after 7 days that the waters of the flood were upon the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all of the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened, and the rain was upon the earth for 40 days and 40 nights. In the selfsame day entered Noah, Shem, and Ham, and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and Noah's wife, and the 3 wives of his sons with them into the ark. They and every beast after his kind, and all of the cattle after their kind, the creeping things that creeps after each species, after their kind, and the earth, and every fowl after his kind, every bird of every sort. And they went in unto Noah into the ark, 2 and 2 of all of the flesh, wherein is the breath of life. And they that went in male and female, all of all the flesh, as God had commanded him, and the Lord shut him in. The Lord shut him in. So when the people were banging on the ark, when it started to rain, wanting to get in, Noah couldn't open the door. God had shut him in. And so the flood was 40 days upon the earth. Waters increased. They bore up the ark, and it was lifted up above the earth. The waters prevailed, and they were increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark went upon the face of the waters, and the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth. All of the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. There are those that say, well, the flood was just a local flood. If it were just a local flood, it wouldn't be necessary to build the ark. God would say, move south, Noah, get out of the Euphrates plain, and he wouldn't have to build an ark in order to escape. There is interesting evidence of the universal flood. Just so much evidence in the geological record of a universal flood. Water once covered the earth, even the high mountains. 20,000 feet up in the Himalayas, there in the earth strata, there are fossilized shells, seashells. How in the world did those seashells get up 20,000 feet in the Himalayas? There's no explanation for it except that it was once covered with water. Up on the south shore of the Grand Canyon, 7,000 feet, you can see the fossilized seashells there in the strata at 7,000 feet elevation. And of course, that gives an interesting problem. How was the Grand Canyon formed? A little water over several 100,000 years, or a great amount of water over a short period of time? It wasn't too long ago that Mount St. Helens erupted, and the lake that was up there was emptied as the result of the eruption, and it, in just a couple of days, formed a canyon that looks very similar to the Grand Canyon, and it was formed in just a couple of days. And by the time, if they had the time, in the future, when the science classes go, the science teacher will probably point to this canyon and say, now this was formed over a long thousands of years of time, you know, by this little river that comes flowing down Mount St. Helens. But no, there's just a lot of evidence that the catastrophe of the flood took place less than 6,000 years ago, and most of them actually date it at about 4,000 years. One of the interesting evidences, Niagara Falls. Because of the vast amount of water that is flowing out of Lake Erie over the Niagara Falls, there is an erosion that takes place at the rate of about 3.5 feet a year. About 100 years ago, when they built this hotel right at the edge of the falls, as a result of the erosion, that hotel is now over 300 feet away from where the falls are today. And this has been a constant kind of an erosion that has been measured now over quite a few years. And the canyon that has been created by Niagara Falls is only 7,000 feet long. Now, that means that the Niagara Falls isn't that old, that the water over the Niagara Falls hasn't been flowing for hundreds of thousands of years, but probably only about 4,000 years at the most at the rate of erosion. It is interesting that they have found caves in the United States, in Europe, other areas of the world, in China, where there are the skeletal remains of many